أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Atheists and philosophers ask this question where they say if God is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnibenevolent, then why is there evil in this world? Why doesn't God just punish and end all evil since He is all powerful? But since God does not end evil, either God does not exist or God must not be all merciful, powerful, and good as believers claim. And if God can end evil, but he willingly does not do it, then God must be evil himself. Why did God create evil in the first place? Why not create us in a world where there were no evil to begin with? Philosophers call these questions the problem of evil. In this discussion, we will explore number one, what evil actually is. Number two, we will prove that creating evil and not destroying or punishing it immediately does not make God any less powerful or merciful, and it does not make God himself evil as atheists or some philosophers claim. Number three, why atheists cannot solve the problem of evil. Number four, what is the role of evil in human life? And number five, how we can reduce evil from our lives. We will go over all these points. So the first question is, what is evil? For different people, evil means different things. For example, one nation's hero freedom fighters might be another nation's evil terrorists. What is evil and who is evil is subjective. In general, if something harms us or creates a threat to our survival in this world, we call it evil. One important thing to understand is that the concept of moral evil is only applicable to human actions. In other words, on the planet Earth, only human beings commit moral evil. Any non-human actions, such as a pack of hyenas tearing apart a zebra or one lion killing another lion's cubs, are not categorized as moral evil. They're just called acts of nature. The concept of evil is limited and subjective to us human beings only. There is no such thing as objective or universal evil, because on the universal scale, events are just happening due to the movements of atoms and molecules in different directions. We human beings categorize certain events as good or evil based on our human sensitivities and how they impact us. This does not mean that other creatures or God himself also see them as bad, because human sensitivities and biases do not apply to non-humans. Their frame of reference is different. Sometimes bad things happening to humans are actually good news for other creatures. We will touch on this point a bit later, but first let's get to the point that even though God created evil, it makes absolutely no logical sense for us to say God himself is not good, as atheists claim. We have to understand that we human beings can judge each other, but God is far beyond and transcendent of our judgment. Why? Consider this example. There is a very famous movie called Avatar. In this movie, evil human beings travel to another planet, Pandora. There is a scene in which they attack a native pseudo-human creature called Navi and destroy their big sacred tree. Many innocent Navis are killed in that attack. Now, this scene was created by the creator of the movie, James Cameron, who wrote that evil attack on Navis. My question is, why is James Cameron not in jail because he created the evil of human beings killing so many innocent Navis? And according to the atheist logic, if he created evil, he must be evil himself, and such an evil person should be in jail. I asked an atheist this question, and he said because those Navis are fake. James did not kill someone in real life. That's right. Navis only exist in the movie that James wrote. They do not exist in the same dimension of existence as James does. James can be blamed and punished if he kills someone in his own dimension of existence. The liability of killing Navis and destroying the tree goes to the evil human beings within the movie. So, killing someone in a story does not make the author of that story a murderer. The blame goes to the other characters of the story who actually commit that action. And also note that James made a point by including evil characters in his movie. By the end of the movie, evil is defeated, good prevails over evil, and the bad characters are brought to justice. It was a beautiful story, and that movie broke many records. Imagine if there was no evil in that movie, it would have been a boring movie. Now, let's come to the universe and God. As the Quran describes in many verses, our existence and this universe originated from God, and everything in the heavens and earth belongs to God. God decides the time and place of our birth, our physical features, our food, our parents, and the time of return to Him, aka death. This whole existence is God's story, and we are mere characters of the divine story. Quran chapter 11, verse 107 says, "Surely your Lord does whatever He intends." So God writes whatever He wants in His story because He is the author of this story. God created us for His purpose, and if God included a construct called evil in our reality, that does not make God any less powerful, merciful, or non existent. Not stopping evil does not make God evil as atheists claim. And if you think it does, then you should put in jail James Cameron and all authors, artists, and movie makers who ever included evil in their stories or creations. But if that makes no sense and those people are all free, then it makes absolutely no logical sense when someone says God is not good because He created evil. If God is not running His creation according to our desires and agenda and biases, then we have to go along with it and adjust to the reality that we are in, not the other way around. God has no liability towards us, and it's not like God signed a contract with us that He's violating. We do not even exist on our own. Our existence is dependent on God and His universe. So any judgment that atheists are passing in this regard is completely unbounded. Now let's come to the idea of God punishing and destroying evil immediately. It is true that God can do it at will, but let me tell you, if God were to destroy all evil at once, then you and I would also be destroyed, and no one would be spared of that destruction. You know why? Because there is a bigger picture at play here. We human beings are not the only creature of God on earth. We are just one of the so many other creatures who share the earth with us, and they are in much greater numbers than we are. And guess what? We humans are the greatest evil for them. We get benefit from them by killing them and destroying them. We make food, medicine, clothing, and perfumes, etc. of their bodies. We pollute and poison their environment. We compete with them and deprive them of their habitat and food. For example, when we harvest our crops, fruits, and vegetables, we deprive God knows how many insects, birds, and animals of their food that they would have brought to their children. When you are about to kill a cockroach in your kitchen, you're the greatest evil ever for that cockroach. So, if we are asking God to remove all that is evil for us, I'm sure that these other creatures would want us removed in the same episode of evil removal. So, this idea of evil removal is just not the best idea for our own sake. Also, note that if every evil is punished right away, it will shut down the door of repentance and forgiveness. Human beings will no longer be able to reflect upon their sins and ask for forgiveness. They will not be able to learn from their mistakes and improve themselves if the punishment happens right away. Now, as for why natural disasters happen, such as pandemics, floods, and earthquakes, etc., and cause so much death and destruction, note that the problem here is not death itself. The problem is the trauma associated with it. It is true that death is tragic and traumatic, especially when our loved ones depart. But God's frame of reference is not the same as human frame of reference. As far as God is concerned, death is just a process of transferring a soul from one dimension of existence to another dimension of existence. God sends every soul on the planet Earth for a limited time. Once the time is up, the soul has to come back. Quran says every soul shall taste death, and our death is one future event that we know will happen for sure. Atheists think of death as the end of existence, but for seasoned believers, it is just the end of one era and beginning of a new era. It is the time of meeting their Lord. It is not bad, it is just sad for survivors who are left behind. It is true that death is violent, painful, tragic, scary, and traumatic. But think about it. If death were such a pleasant experience, who would want to live? Life is an act of hard labor, as Quran says in chapter 90, verse 4. Verily, we have created man into toil and hardship. For us Muslim believers, God has already set this expectation, and Islam teaches us how to be patient and go through hardship with grace. But there are people out there who do not rely on God, who are impatient, and who lose hope easily. They still prefer to live despite all hardships they face in life, partly because death is so horrible and scary. Otherwise, imagine if death were a joyride, it would be so easy for them to take their own life in their weak moments. God made death so horrible to preserve life and repel people from it until their time truly comes. Also, consider this. We benefit from the death and destruction of other creatures. The same way, when we die as a result of disease, crime, accidents, or natural disasters, etc., there are other creatures that get their food and sustenance from our bodies. So, oh human being, why do you think you are so special? Our beautiful bodies are recycled. They pass through the digestive system of insects and microbes, and then they get added to the resources of Mother Earth. Other creatures, being part of the food chain, utilize these resources and get benefits from them. Who told you that human beings are here to stay on Earth? There is a cycle of creation and destruction in God's plan, and we are a part of it just like everybody else. According to the scientists, when dinosaurs died and became extinct due to an asteroid hit, that created room for other creatures to evolve, and we human beings evolved in this process. If dinosaurs did not move out of the way, species like rodents and mammals would not have had room to evolve. The same way, when we die and move out of the way, this also creates room for the next generation creatures. If dinosaurs thought like atheists, they would look at the asteroid and say, God does not exist, because if he existed, he would not have created this asteroid that is coming to destroy us. So look at the big picture. No one comes on earth to stay. Every creature is here to spend some time and then it is supposed to leave through a mechanism we call death. This death is brought about by some cause such as natural disasters, disease, accidents, or other things that we call evil. And as much as we wish otherwise, some creatures or other human beings will bring evil to us in different degrees, and that is by design. So, why can't atheists make sense of the problem of evil? Because they don't believe in the hereafter. If you don't believe in the hereafter and think of death as total annihilation, then of course evil and death will have a different meaning for you. And it would seem much more tragic to you than it really is. You would think it is senseless to create evil, which I have to deal with when I will stop existing in some years. But if you are a seasoned believer, you know that you just have to be patient, and on the day of judgment, it will all add up and make sense. On that day, all victims of evil will find the final closure and all unfinished human matters will be settled. Good will prevail over evil, and God will compensate you with eternal happiness for going through this temporary hardship in the name of God. So the reason why problem of evil does not add up for atheists is that they bring God and evil into the equation but leave hereafter and the day of judgment out. They are only looking at part of the picture and not the full picture. So you have to believe in the hereafter and bring it into the equation of the problem of evil if you want to make sense of it and truly understand it. People asking why God created evil and why he does not remove it do not understand that it is the mission of human beings to fight against evil and try to eliminate it. In Quran chapter 3 verse 110, God says, "You are the best nation raised for the sake of humanity. You enjoin what is good and forbid evil and believe in God." There are many other places in Quran where the same message is repeated. Spreading good is an act of mercy and preventing evil is an act of justice. According to this verse of Quran, God considers the best people the believers who live for the sake of humanity and establish justice and mercy. God has hardwired justice and mercy into the human psyche regardless of the religious affiliations. Therefore, all humankind strives for justice and mercy in general. Think about it. Why is it that in all of the stories we write and all the movies we make, there is a struggle between good and evil? Then there is a happy ending where good prevails over evil. Even our real life heroes and leaders are those who take a challenge against some evil. The greater the struggle is, and the greater the evil they defeat, the greater the leader and hero we consider them. Why is that? Because this is what human life is all about, and this is our destiny that we are heading towards on the day of judgment. Asking God to remove evil is like a student who is taking an exam and he says, if the professor knows the answer, why does he want me to write the answer? Why doesn't he write the answer himself? Yes, the professor knows it and he could write the answer if he wanted to, but he will not do it. You are expected to do it because that is the point of you being there. God can remove all evil, but he assigned this mission to you. Or it is like you are put in a soccer match and you say, if I'm expected to score goals, then why is there an opponent team in my way? Why doesn't the match organizer remove the opponent team so that I can score goals? Human life is also a match between good and evil. God lets you choose your side and score goals against the other side. Great players are those who score goals against hard opponents. God gave you the power to do great good or great evil. Remember, that the evil human beings always start small. Their evil becomes greater when good human beings don't do their job and do not prevent evil in its early stages. When it goes out of hands and starts hurting, then they start blaming God. Look around and see that all of the great evils in this world is the work of human hands. It became great because good human beings did not stand up against it on time and failed in their collective responsibility. Now, as for why God did not put us in a world where there is no evil and suffering in the first place, there is a place where there is no pain, suffering, death, disease, fatigue, and there is eternal happiness. God has created this place and we call it paradise. But paradise is God's VIP lounge and it's no free lunch. Not everyone will make it there. Think about it. There are people who live and walk on God's earth, eat food created by God, breathe air that God provided, and get benefits from God's other creatures and consume His resources. Then they refuse to recognize God's sovereignty by overstepping His limits. Some don't even believe in Him, say bad things about Him, and inspire others to rebel against Him. Do you think that that criminals like murderers, drug lords, rapists, and rebels, etc., be in paradise along with people who spent their lives worshiping God and serving God's creature by implementing justice and mercy on God's earth? That doesn't seem fair, right? Imagine you enter paradise and your neighbor comes to introduce himself and says, "Hi, my name is Jack the Ripper." And then the other neighbor comes and says, "Hi, my name is Hitler." Wouldn't you be like, "Wait a minute, am I at the right place?" This is exactly why God put humans on earth first in an environment where they can commit evil so that people of criminal essence and rebels can show their true colors and then they can be filtered out through God's justice and sent where they really belong. God is merciful, but also God is just. And one of God's qualities is that He is the most majestic. God will not send anyone to paradise who has no respect for God's sovereignty and majesty. God will send to paradise people out of His mercy who really want it, who express humility towards God and work their way towards it, who strive to implement God's agenda of mercy and justice even when it goes against their own impulses and personal agenda. These are the people who will return successful from their stay on earth. Finally, how can we eliminate evil from our life? We cannot completely eliminate evil from our life, but we can certainly reduce it. If you think about it, the evil we face in this world is a result of our needs and imperfections. Our needs make us vulnerable to evil. For example, you and your family become hungry, so you need to bring food. While bringing food, some evil guy can rob you of it, but if your body was so perfect that it did not need to eat food, then you would never become a victim to a food robbery. A guy with a gun who is shooting at you is evil because the bullet can penetrate your body, but if your body was made of such perfect material that was not penetrable by a bullet, that guy would not have a potential to become evil for you. So the more perfect you become and the lesser needs you have, the more immune from evil you become. Let's say you achieve all degrees of perfection where you don't need to eat, drink, sleep, and travel. You don't become sick. You know everything and you are everywhere all the time. Now you've become like God. So, if you're anything less than God, and especially a mortal being who is eventually going to die, some evil has to exist for you. Now, if you further think, why do we make movements on earth? We move to fulfill some need. Animals and birds undertake these huge land and air migrations for the sake of food, shelter, and better weather. This movement also makes them prone to the evil of predators. But if these creatures did not need food and better weather, why would they move? So, one way God is creating movement in His creation is through putting needs in His creatures. Needs create movement, and movement is a symbol of life. And this is how God is expressing life in His kingdom. Another takeaway from here is that we can reduce evil from our life by reducing our needs and being content and patient. These are some of the many qualities that faith in God, especially Islam, brings in one's life. Islam teaches perseverance through reliance and trust in God. We learn to become happy, content, and thankful with less and become resilient against the trials and tribulations of life. This, along with patience, makes believers strong and steadfast so that facing evil does not break them. It actually makes them stronger. If you think about it, it's not usually the evil itself that hurts as much to victims. It is the sense of being victimized that hurts more. Islam takes this victim mentality away. A Muslim can never be a victim. If you look at early Islamic history, you will find that Prophet Muhammad and his companions endured so much evil and abuse at the hands of their oppressors. Just to give you an idea of the extent, they made one of his companions even lie on burning coals. But those early Muslims always faced it with grace and power. They lived through it by the teachings of Quran, and not only they fought back, but then they had the last laugh. After they had the final victory, the Prophet, peace be upon him, did not seek revenge and forgave even the worst perpetrators of evil after neutralizing them. Islam makes you strong and patient enough that going through trials and tribulations become easy and you achieve peace in life. This is the end of today's talk. Thanks for watching and goodbye.